I stood by my wife through a serious illness, then she cheated. When it came back, I sold the house and filed for divorce. But my last move left her speechless. My wife used cancer as her cover story. My unwavering devotion? Her shield. And I fell for every single lie, until one late night, staring at her phone, I realized her illness was just a weapon in the most calculated betrayal I could ever imagine. It was 2 o'clock in the morning, a cold night in March. The quiet hum of the refrigerator filled our kitchen, but the silence felt deafening against the storm raging inside me. I'm Ethan, 36, a forensic financial analyst. I uncover deceit for a living, track hidden money, expose fraud schemes. I testify in federal court against people who think they're smarter than the system. But this? This was on another level. Olivia, my wife, had been living the biggest lie of all. She almost got away with it. Almost. Here's how it all unfolded. 2 years prior, Olivia came home from a routine checkup. Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, stage 2B. Just like that, our world tilted. Our daughter, Chloe, was 8. Our son, Liam, was 11. Suddenly, we were at the dining table, talking chemotherapy protocols and survival rates. Dr. Miller said it was aggressive but treatable. 6 months of treatment, maybe radiation. We'd fight it together. I meant that promise with every fiber of my being. I canceled work trips to Denver and San Diego. My entire career restructured around her treatment schedule. I became fluent in medical terminology I never wanted to know: CHOP protocol, rituximab infusions, neutropenia, peripheral neuropathy. I wasn't just a supportive husband. I was her caretaker, her advocate, the person holding everything together while she fought for her life. I made breakfast every morning. Packed lunches with notes for Chloe. Drove to soccer practice and piano lessons. Helped with homework. My evenings were spent at the hospital, watching Olivia sleep through the toxins they were pumping into her to destroy the cancer cells. I held her hair back when she was sick. Rubbed her feet when neuropathy made them burn. I slept in hospital chairs more nights than I can count. Liam asked me one night if his mom was going to die. I didn't have a good answer. Chloe stopped sleeping through the night. I'd find her at 3 a.m., crying in Olivia's closet, clutching her sweater like it was a shield against the inevitable. I held our family together. That's what you do for someone you love, fighting for their life. Olivia had always done charity work. After her diagnosis, she became the face of the Hands Forward Foundation, a nonprofit aiding families dealing with cancer. Her story resonated deeply. She did interviews, spoke at fundraising events, shared her journey on social media with raw honesty. Donors found her inspiring. The foundation's donations tripled during her treatment. Olivia became a local celebrity in the cancer advocacy community. I was so proud. I thought she was turning something horrible into something meaningful. I had no idea she was using it as a stage, and I was just a prop in her performance. 6 months into treatment, Olivia went into remission. Dr. Miller called it excellent news. We celebrated like we'd won the lottery. Her hair grew back. Her energy returned. Life started feeling normal. She went back to part-time work with the foundation, organizing events and managing donor relations. I kept my schedule flexible, just in case. We settled into a healing routine: dinner together every night, movie nights on weekends, monthly date nights at our favorite Italian place downtown. I genuinely believed we were rebuilding, that we'd survived the worst and were coming out stronger. Then, one evening in late September, about 6 months into remission, I came home early from a meeting. Olivia's phone sat on the kitchen counter. She was upstairs, showering. The screen lit up with a message I couldn't ignore. Can't wait to hold you again. Tonight felt too short. The sender was just D. My stomach dropped to my feet. I picked up her phone. Entered the passcode she'd used for years, the same one I'd used 100 times when she was too sick to respond. Why would she hide anything from me? I was the devoted husband who'd do anything for her. The text thread loaded. I started scrolling. 8 months of messages. Right through the middle of her chemotherapy. Through the weeks I was sleeping in hospital chairs, missing work to be by her side. Photos that made me feel physically ill. Hotel receipts. Conversations about being careful because he's always watching my schedule now. Then I found the message that shattered everything. He thinks the cancer brought us closer. He has no idea who I really am. I stood in that kitchen. The shower was still running upstairs. My entire world collapsed. I'd given up career opportunities, spent thousands of hours caring for her, held her through the absolute worst moments of her life. And she'd been lying. The entire time. Not just lying, but planning. Calculating. Using my devotion as cover while she built a life with someone else. The shower turned off. I had maybe 3 minutes before she came downstairs. I did what I do best. I started gathering evidence. I spent the next week living a double life. The irony wasn't lost on me. I created a folder on my laptop, labeled Henderson Case after a real client. Inside, I built a timeline that would make any prosecutor proud: screenshots, metadata, location data. Everything documented and backed up. I worked late every night after Olivia went to bed. When she asked, I'd say it was a complicated fraud case. She'd bring me coffee, play the supportive wife, while I documented her betrayal. It took me about 20 minutes to identify him: David Hayes, 41 years old, management consultant at a firm downtown, married with 2 kids, living 15 minutes from our house. Cross-referencing his phone number with LinkedIn and property records gave me everything. I stared at his professional headshot for a long time, trying to understand what she saw in him. Then I remembered I wasn't the problem here and went back to building my case. The affair had started during her treatment. The timeline overlapped with some of the worst moments of our lives. I found messages from specific dates I remembered clearly. One was from a night when I called her frantically because she'd missed a blood test. I was terrified something had happened. She texted back saying she'd lost track of time at a support group meeting. Her message to David that same day said, "Spa day was perfect." I needed that so badly. Another was from a weekend when she'd told me she needed to attend a foundation planning retreat in the mountains for donor strategy meetings. I'd stayed home with the kids, got Liam to his soccer tournament, helped Chloe with a school project about ocean ecosystems. Olivia's messages to David from that weekend included photos from a bed and breakfast, wine glasses, sunset views, and the words, "Best 48 hours and forever." Every lie had been carefully constructed, because she knew exactly what I wanted to hear and exactly how devoted I'd be to supporting her recovery. But then I found something that changed everything from betrayal to something much worse. Olivia had set up a second email account. I only discovered it because she'd used a password incorporating one of her chemotherapy drug names. This account, registered under her maiden name, was connected to financial transactions I didn't recognize: consulting fees, invoice payments, transfers that made no sense until I started pulling the threads. There was a company called LM Wellness Consulting LLC, registered 6 months earlier, with Olivia as the managing member. The business address was a UPS store mailbox. The bank account had deposits matching payments marked as consulting services in the Hands Forward Foundation's financial records. Small amounts at first, 500 here, 750 there. Numbers that wouldn't trigger immediate red flags. But then the amounts grew: 1,500, 3,000, and then one payment that made my blood run cold. $47,000, marked as a strategic planning consultation fee. I cross-referenced the dates with the Foundation's donor records. That $47,000 had come from a private grant specifically designated for patient assistance programs. Money meant to help families pay for treatment and medication, the kind of expenses that bankrupt people when cancer hits. Olivia had created a fake consulting company, approved the invoices herself as the foundation's patient advocacy director, and funneled the money into her own account. This wasn't just an affair anymore. This was embezzlement. Fraud. Federal crime territory. The exact kind of thing I testified about in court when other people did it. The money had been spent on hotels, restaurants, an $8,200 jewelry purchase, and transfers to David's personal account marked as loan repayment, even though I found no record of any legitimate loan. She'd built an entire financial infrastructure to support her affair and exit strategy, using money meant for cancer patients. I sat in my home office at 3 o'clock in the morning, looking at spreadsheets and bank transfers. Realizing my wife wasn't just a cheater, but a criminal who'd weaponized a cancer charity to steal from the very people she claimed to be helping. I downloaded everything. Backed it up in 3 separate locations, including secure cloud storage. I started planning my next move. This required precision, strategy, and perfect timing. I called my mom, Susan, the next morning. Asked if she could take the kids for the weekend. Told her Olivia and I needed time to reconnect. She was thrilled. Said it was exactly what we needed after everything we'd been through. That Saturday, I did something I never thought I'd do. I followed my own wife. She told me she had a foundation board meeting about quarterly reviews and fundraising goals. I watched her leave in professional clothes, drive toward downtown, then turn into a boutique hotel I recognized from her messages. She was inside for 4 hours. I sat 3 blocks away, tracking her location through our family sharing app, the same app we'd set up during treatment so I could find her in emergencies. When she came home that evening, she looked refreshed and happy. Kissed my cheek. Started describing the board meeting that never happened. She described conversations with people who weren't there, decisions never made, concerns about funding that didn't exist. She lied to my face with the same genuine expression she'd used when thanking me for staying with her through chemotherapy. I smiled and nodded, watching her construct an entire fictional narrative without hesitation. That night, I contacted Sarah Jenkins, a divorce attorney who'd worked on several of my cases. Her reputation? Ruthless, when situations called for it. I sent her an encrypted email with enough detail to show this wasn't a standard divorce. Her assistant called back within 2 hours to schedule me for Monday morning. When I walked into Sarah's office, I brought printed copies of everything. Organized, labeled folders, affair evidence, financial crimes, the timeline, bank records. I laid it all out on her conference table like I was presenting to a jury. Sarah's expression shifted from professional interest to genuine shock. "This is worse than you think," she said, looking up with the kind of serious face that meant bad news was coming. The embezzlement alone could get her prison time. But if those donor funds came from federal grants, we were talking wire fraud, mail fraud, potential RICO implications. I told Sarah what I wanted. Not just a divorce, but everything. I wanted Olivia to lose everything she'd built on lies. I wanted the house sold and proceeds in a trust for Liam and Chloe. Every stolen dollar returned to the foundation. Full custody, because I wasn't leaving my kids with someone who'd commit fraud this casually. And I wanted to control the narrative before she could paint herself as the cancer survivor abandoned by her heartless husband. Sarah made notes. Then she asked the question I'd been dreading, what if the cancer comes back? I thought about this for hours. Wondering what kind of man abandons his wife during a recurrence. Then I remembered that message, "He has no idea who I really am." And I remembered the woman I thought I married didn't actually exist. "Then she'll handle it without me," I said calmly. Just like she handled everything else, by lying and using people who actually care. Sarah nodded slowly. "We need to move fast. If she realizes you know anything, she'll start moving money and building her defense." Sarah moved fast, and so did I. Within 3 weeks, we had a strategy that would dismantle everything Olivia had built while she thought she was still in control. I consulted with Sarah about the house. She advised me to wait for the divorce filing, because trying to sell it unilaterally could backfire legally, even with old medical power of attorney paperwork never meant for real estate transactions. Instead, we built an airtight case that would force Olivia to agree to my terms or face criminal prosecution. Sarah filed the divorce papers on a Monday morning. I had them served to Olivia at the foundation office that afternoon by a professional process server. Official documentation, witnessed by 3 staff members who'd spent months praising her courage and dedication. I wasn't there to see her face, but I heard about it later from Mark, one of the board members. He said Olivia went pale, locked herself in her office for an hour, then came out acting like nothing had happened. Still performing. Still controlling the narrative. But I was already 10 steps ahead. I'd made a detailed report to Mark about financial irregularities I'd noticed. The foundation's board had quietly hired an independent auditor. That auditor was finding exactly what I'd found: the fake consulting company, the invoices, the transfers, the $47,000 that should have gone to help a family in Georgia struggling with pediatric leukemia costs. Every transaction was documented, time-stamped, and completely indefensible. Mark called me after the preliminary audit results came back. I walked him through everything. Provided copies of the evidence. I watched the foundation's leadership realize they'd been promoting a fraud for months. The board scheduled an emergency meeting. They decided to use the foundation's annual gala as the moment to expose everything. The gala was supposed to be Olivia's triumphant moment. Her return as the face of cancer survivorship. The woman who'd beaten the odds and dedicated herself to helping others. 300 guests, major donors, local press, corporate sponsors, everyone who mattered in the nonprofit world. Olivia had been planning it for months, coordinating every detail. She'd picked out a silver dress, prepared remarks, invited people who'd supported her through treatment. She thought it was going to be her coronation. I made sure it became her trial. I arrived early with a USB drive containing a presentation Sarah and I had assembled: timeline, screenshots, financial records, hotel receipts, everything organized to tell the complete story. I found the AV technician setting up the projection system. Told him there had been a programming change from the board. I handed him the drive and a $100 bill to ensure it loaded correctly. He didn't ask questions. The ballroom filled over the next hour. Donors in expensive suits and dresses. Foundation staff who genuinely believed in their work. Cancer survivors who'd been helped by legitimate programs. And Olivia, holding court in the center, wearing that silver dress and a smile that could sell anything. David was there too, standing near the back. Olivia had invited him as a consultant to celebrate the foundation's growth, not realizing what was about to happen. I watched them exchange one careful glance across the room, and it made me sick. Mark stepped to the podium at 8 o'clock sharp. Started with the usual welcome speech, thanking donors and recognizing supporters. Then he paused. Looked directly at Olivia near the front. Said something that made the entire room shift. Before we hear from our guest of honor tonight, the board has asked me to share some critical information that's come to our attention regarding financial accountability. The projection screen lit up with the first slide. A photo of Olivia during chemotherapy, the vulnerable image she'd shared on social media to build sympathy. The next slide showed a text message exchange between her and David, time-stamped from the same week, discussing a hotel meeting and being careful. The room went completely silent. Olivia's face drained of color. I watched her look around frantically, trying to figure out what was happening and who was responsible. Her eyes landed on me against the sidewall. The recognition hit her like a physical blow. The presentation continued, methodically building the case slide by slide. Her messages about using cancer as cover. The fake consulting company. The invoices. The bank transfers. The $47,000 stolen from a designated patient assistance fund. Photos of her at spas while I thought she was at doctor's appointments. Hotel check-in records matching dates when she'd claimed to be too exhausted from treatment to leave the house. Then came the audio. The piece I'd saved for maximum impact. A voicemail she'd sent to David that I'd found in her cloud backup. Her talking about how easy it was to manipulate my schedule. The cancer thing really locks him down. He won't question anything now. Her own voice. Her own words. Played through the ballroom sound system for 300 people to hear. David stood up abruptly and walked toward the exit. Half the room was staring at the screen while the other half stared at Olivia. The foundation's board members were having urgent, whispered conversations near the podium. Mark stepped back to the microphone and made the announcement Sarah had helped craft. The board has accepted Olivia's resignation effective immediately. We've referred all financial irregularities to the appropriate authorities. The Foundation will make full restitution to affected programs and implement new oversight procedures. We apologize to everyone who trusted us. Security escorted Olivia out. I watched her walk through that ballroom with every eye on her. The same ballroom where she'd expected applause and vindication. I didn't follow her. I stayed until the end, talked to Mark and other board members, assured them I'd cooperate fully with any investigation. Then I went home to my kids. The divorce took 7 months to finalize. Sarah said that was actually fast, given the complexity. She'd negotiated terms that left Olivia with almost nothing, because the alternative was criminal prosecution. Full custody to me, with supervised visitation only. The house was sold, and proceeds went into an irrevocable trust for Liam and Chloe, managed by a third party with terms Olivia couldn't touch or contest. She had to repay every dollar she'd stolen, which meant liquidating her car, her retirement accounts, everything of value. She had to resign from the foundation permanently and agree never to work in non-profit management again. Zero spousal support due to the infidelity and fraud. Olivia's own attorney advised her to fight it. But Sarah had made it crystal clear, fighting meant federal wire fraud charges. Olivia wasn't stupid enough to risk prison. She signed every page. David's marriage imploded. He lost his job when the story went public. Last I heard, he was working for some startup in another state, trying to rebuild his reputation. The foundation recovered, implemented strict financial controls, and continued helping people who actually needed it. Then, 9 months after the divorce was final, Olivia called from a number I didn't recognize. She was crying, barely coherent. She said the words I'd been half expecting. It's back. The cancer's back, and it's worse this time. I stood in my kitchen. The same kitchen where I'd first discovered those messages on her phone. And I felt absolutely nothing. No sympathy. No guilt. No urge to fix this for her. You'll handle it, I said calmly. Just like you handled everything else. She started saying something about the kids needing their mother, about how she'd made mistakes but didn't deserve this, how sorry she was. I cut her off. Cancer didn't change you, Olivia. It just revealed who you always were. I hung up. Liam and Chloe are doing okay now. They're in therapy, processing their mother's choices. Some days are harder than others. But they're safe. They're provided for. And they're learning that actions have consequences, that trust actually matters. I'm back to my regular caseload, uncovering deceit for a living. And I'm better at it than ever, because I learned from the best. My wife taught me that the most dangerous lies are the ones wrapped in sympathy. That's a lesson I'll never forget. I once thought supporting someone through their darkest hours made a marriage unbreakable. Turns out some people see your devotion as weakness, your sacrifice as opportunity, and your love as something to exploit. I gave Olivia everything I had during the worst time of her life. And she repaid me by becoming the biggest fraud case I ever worked. The only difference is this time, I wasn't just the investigator. I was the victim who made sure justice actually got served. What would you have done in my situation?